Despite decades of engineering advancements, powerful computers, and lessons that should have been learned long ago, we'll look at real recalls, real defects, and the uncomfortable truth behind why this keeps happening. Let's get into it now. The engine is the heart of the vehicle. Without it, that monthly payment suddenly becomes a lot harder to justify. But for decades, consumers were told that technology would solve reliability issues, testing would improve its durability, and engineers would learn from the past mistakes. And yet, here we are in 2026, still discussing engine failures, recalls, and vehicles that suddenly stall, knock, seize, require complete engine replacements. What makes this even more frustrating is that many of these failures are not happening in 20-year-old vehicles. Some of them are happening in vehicles that are only a few years old. Some occur while owners are still making payments, some happen when the vehicle is still under warranty, and the worst thing, and some even happen just after the warranty expires. When you look at through the owner forums, complaint databases, repair discussions, and recall notices, one thing becomes very clear. The same theme keeps reoccurring. The names change, the manufacturers change, the engines change, but the reasons often remain surprisingly similar. The first issue, of course, comes down to modern engines are being asked to perform miracles. Manufacturers want more power, consumers want better fuel economy, and governments want lower emissions. Automakers want lower production costs, but the result is smaller engines producing more power than ever before. A modern turbo four-cylinder engine can now make more power numbers than once reserved for V6s and even some of the older V8s. That sounds impressive, but every increase of power usually comes with increased stress, higher combustion pressures, temperatures, higher loads on bearings, higher loads on pistons, higher loads on cooling systems, higher loads on oil systems. Everything is working harder, and when everything is working harder, the margin for error becomes smaller. This is where durability starts to suffer. The reality is simple. Physics never takes a day off, and sometimes that cost shows up years later in the form of premature wear and catastrophic failure. And when consumers hear that their modern engine has suffered a bearing failure, they actually naturally ask the question, how did we get here? These failures are often avoidable. Let's look at one of the biggest examples, Toyota's recalls involving the V35A 3.4-liter twin-turbo V6 engine. Of course, powers the Toyota Tundra, Lexus LX, GX, and many other models. According to the recall information, machining debris left behind during the manufacturing process could contaminate engine bearings, and this leads to abnormal bearing wear, it creates knocking noises, and rough operation, stalling, and in severe situations, complete engine catastrophic failure. More than 270,000 trucks and SUVs have been impacted not because of a revolutionary engineering challenge, but because debris remained inside the engine. After manufacturing? How does that even happen? That's difficult for the consumers to accept. I mean, where's the quality control in all of this? It just doesn't seem suitable for a vehicle that's going to cost $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. You spend tens of thousands, and in a new vehicle, you expect precision. You expect quality. I didn't ask for extra parts when I bought the vehicle, did I? And Toyota isn't the only example. Sadly, approximately 112,000 Jeep Wrangler 4xe and Grand Cherokee 4xe vehicles. They were also recalled over concerns involving contamination from the engine block. Yeah, casting process. There was debris left over there as well. According to the recall, sand contamination could remain within the engine and potentially contribute to engine failure, or even increase the potential for risk or fire. Problems that should ideally be eliminated before the vehicles even reach consumers. Yet somehow, they still occur. The third reason is modern engines are simply becoming too complex, and technology has transformed vehicles. Variable valve timing, direct injection, turbochargers, as well as electronic throttle systems, advanced engine management software, hybrid integration, cylinder deactivation, and countless sensors. Each technology brings benefits, but every added component also introduces another potential failure point. One example involves Nissan's recent recalls connected to the 1.5-liter VC turbo engine used in the Rogue. First of all, what is a 1.5-liter engine doing in an SUV? Doesn't belong in my personal opinion. But the NHTSA campaigns 26V080 and 26V081 affected more than 640,000 vehicles. One recall involved concerns regarding engine bearing damage associated with high oil temperatures. The other involved electronic throttle body concerns that could contribute to stalling, loss of power. Now, let's think about what that means. The modern engine isn't just an engine anymore. It's a computer system, a software system, and sometimes a hybrid system all at once. When something goes wrong, diagnosing the issue becomes much more difficult. Repairing the issue becomes more expensive, and the consequences can become much more severe. Complexity can create amazing performance, but complexity can also create a new opportunity for failure. The fourth reason is the cost pressures that just simply never disappear. Every vehicle is built within a budget. Every component has a cost target. Every manufacturing process has a financial impact. Every supplier contract affects profitability. And automakers face constant pressure from shareholders, from competitors, pressure from regulations as well. And somewhere inside that process, decisions are made. Most of these decisions are reasonable. Some improve efficiency, some reduce waste, some lower costs, but occasionally decisions that look acceptable on paper may create long-term durability concerns that only emerge years later. Consumers don't care about these internal decisions. They care about one thing: will the engine last? And when it doesn't, trust disappears quickly, because from the customer's perspective, reliability should never be optional. It should be expected. The fifth reason: customers have become the final testing phase. This is the hardest truth of all. We're the research and development department. Manufacturers test vehicles extensively. They test them in deserts. They test them in freezing climates. They test them on tracks. But no test program can perfectly replicate millions of customers driving millions of miles under every imaginable circumstance. The real-world test begins after the vehicles are sold. That's when technicians begin noticing repeat failures. That's when complaints begin appearing. That's when recalls happen. And unfortunately, customers sometimes become part of that discovery process. That's where the human side of this story becomes important. Like I've always said, never buy the first, second, maybe even a third model year of that particular major change, because you're likely going to see some of those growing pains. These are real people, real families, real repair bills. I have a family friend who purchased a Hyundai SUV several years back, and it started to develop a bit of a strange noise, followed by a bang and a tow truck ride to the dealer. Blown engine, followed by a, sorry, there is an extended 10-year warranty, but yours is not covered. Imagine hearing that. Imagine maintaining your vehicle, making every single payment, making every single oil change as expected, following the manual as they describe. This is the thanks you get. Trusting the brand, then suddenly being told that you're facing a major engine failure? That's the moment consumers lose faith. And those stories spread fast. I know. Forums discuss them. Owners talk about them. Potential buyers even hear about them. Brand reputations suffer. Now, outside of these five, there's actually a bigger problem. What's frustrating is that none of these issues are new. Bearing failures aren't new. Manufacturing contamination isn't new. Engine overheating isn't new. Neither is oil-related failures. They're not new either. The industry has decades of experience. Brilliant engineers, smarter than they've ever been. You wonder about that sometimes, but they are. They all work on these vehicles, and yet companies spend billions on development. Computers can simulate conditions that engineers could only dream about 25 years ago. Yet major engine recalls continue to occur, and that leaves consumers asking a reasonable question. I've asked this myself many years ago, why many BMWs leak like a sieve when we know what the problem areas are and they keep putting those vehicles out year after year. You know, it's a reasonable question. If I've learned so much, why do these problems keep happening? The answer isn't the engineers are incapable. Far from it. Modern engines are incredible achievements. The problem is that manufacturers are trying to balance the power, emissions, fuel economy, performance, and customer expectations all at the same time. Sometimes, just sometimes, things give. Unfortunately, when that something is the engine, the consequences can be enormous. Ironically, it always seems to be just after the warranty's running out. 4 or 5 years down the road, that's when many of these failures are happening. So why are they still failing in 2026? Because smaller engines are being pushed harder than ever. Because manufacturing defects still occur. Because complexity continues to increase. Because cost pressures never disappear, and because real-world testing continues long after vehicles are sold. Consumers deserve better. They deserve reliability. They deserve confidence. They deserve engines that can survive years of ownership without becoming a financial disaster. And until the industry consistently delivers that, we're going to keep seeing recalls, investigations, warranty disputes, and frustrated owners. Fret not. I have a great video for those of you who maybe want something much more guaranteed to run for decades. You're going to want to check out those videos. You can't go wrong. Hope to see each and every one of you real soon, everybody. We'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.